panel. And so I'm going to introduce everyone first, and then we're going to go straight in. So we have amazing Amanda Harold. She's the VP of Marketing and Insights and Strategy on the NFL. My plug for the NFL is that this November and December, we will be, those of us who don't do sports 24/7, will be very able to go shopping and food because there will be the NFL as well as the World Cup happening in real time. So Amanda will give us the view of the fan. Andres Gonzalez is VP of Partnership and New York City Football Club. And what he does, in addition to being a leader of his ERG, is he really looks at the football club as a conduit for this diversity and inclusion place. So we're really excited to have him. Catalina Villegas is the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at MLB. Again, one sport that's really close to all of our heart, that really has an opportunity to integrate beautifully. And then we have Geronimo Escudero, who's a Senior Brand Director at Oral Care and Digital Commerce at Procter & Gamble. So we have everybody's vantage point. Gero's company has not only leaned into sports in a significant way, from a big stage to the small stage, from the Olympics all the way to in the ground. So really excited to have the insights, the people who do the work, the people who do the sport, and a marketing standing. So we have every single vantage point forward. So I want to be able to start by saying to everyone, sports is where meritocracy happens, right? It's the place where all of us can show up, and all of us can show up in a significant way. And so I'm going to start the questions with why sports? Andres, let's start with you.
Yeah, why sports in the sense of why it matters or why we got involved.
Yep.
So both. So I think I'll start with why I personally got involved in sport. I used to work in finance, and I found it a little bit drier, and decided to explore something that I was really passionate about. I've been a fan of football. I'm originally from Colombia, or soccer. And this is what I do for passion. This is what I enjoy doing in my free time. So when I saw that there were avenues that without playing on the pitch, I can pursue what I love, I decided to go in this direction. And then on why it matters now, what the role that teams can have, I think our fans are expecting more and more of our teams. The things that we do not only on the pitch but off the pitch matter as well. So I'll leave it at that and let one of my other colleagues jump in.
Amanda, maybe since he just punted to the fan and the fan experience, maybe you can give us a little bit of a sense of why is the fan so important now? Why you're involved in giving that voice of the fan?
Absolutely. So just to touch on, by the way, thank you for having me, and welcome everybody. So excited to be here to celebrate Heritage Month together. For me, first part of the question on why sports and then connecting that to the fan, for me, I always wanted to work in a consumer-facing business that I could relate to. And I grew up a huge sports fan of many sports, including football, but also other sports. In Miami, and experiencing that as a community, it was a way for me to connect with my family and a way for me to, escape and celebrate and experience passion that you can't really get anywhere but sport, in that live environment where you don't know what's going to happen. It's the best reality television that could ever be invented, as good as the producers of different shows like The Bachelor are. You can't recreate the drama of the sport on the field. So for me, that was always something I wanted to be closer to, both a really interesting and complex business, but also something that I could relate to and share the passion of the consumers that I would work with and think about and measure every day. So the fan is so critical because it is the lifeblood of the sport. The sport doesn't exist without the fans. It's not really fun to watch a game that is you can't kind of see that passion and the fandom come through. When we were in the pandemic and we didn't have fans filling the stands, we still found ways to recreate that energy through social and digital executions and advanced broadcasting. You just need that passion of the fan to come through, because it's what drives the players. It's what creates the competition. It matters, and you kind of do it all for the fan at the end of the day. And there's no better and bigger fans that we see than the Latino audience in the United States.
So true. Catalina, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I would love to. And, once again, thank you for having me, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. I know it's been a long, how many days? 7 days? 8 days. So it's crazy because I feel,
right?
I know, right? Feel like
it's our moment. We're all in, we're
Yeah,
all seen, we're all heard. And
Yeah.
I wish we could do it 365 days a year.
as we should. But it's been fun. Like, I feel that we have had so many different activations with different groups, and Hispanic Star is a great part of like what we do, and you guys have been amazing. So thank you again for having me, and so nice to see everybody. Super, like, just sports in general for me. I'm very connected to sports. I grew up in Colombia, playing tennis, and tennis was my whole thing, my whole life. I made it to the United States because of tennis, right? And so I always kind of like felt a little bit sad because like didn't make it as a pro, but I took that opportunity to be able to get a free education here in the United States, and just what sports teaches you from different values, from making sure that teamwork, that discipline, that charisma, but then you get a free education too. So that's kind of what I like to like share with the younger group, and especially with like the Latino group. Is like, even if you don't make it as a player or as a coach, you can go in so many different directions, right? So I think just like the values and the ethics that sports in general like gives our education, our community is super important. And then at the same time, like from all the leagues and teams, just making sure that we're providing opportunity for like underrepresented communities. Not only from the fan perspective. I'm more on the DI side. I did a lot of marketing in my previous job, but like now I'm more about like creating opportunities, but sharing that messages with the fans as well. So not only creating opportunities for underrepresented communities on teams or on leagues, but then also for the fans to understand like that different teams and different leagues and players are there with social justice, and they're standing on the right side of history and sharing that. So sports is just, you can be yourself, you can be authentic, and it connects people from different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different accents, different everything. And when you get to a field, to a tennis court, to whatever you go to, it's just the one goal is to be successful. The win or lose is an important fact of that, but like at the end of the day, it's a way to be able to put differences aside and then just work with one goal. So I bring a little bit more of the DI aspect versus, you guys touch a little bit on the marketing and why fans, but it's important to make sure that we're sharing that message of social justice and making sure that we're providing opportunity and respect to different communities.
I love that. I love the sentiment of you all put the jersey together. You're all in the same collective mission. You're in the, everybody can be an integral player, and how you build that through for you, particularly for the education piece, as well as like how you're bringing that in your work. So that's phenomenal. Last person, but not the least, Jero, give us why sports, why now, and how does it fit into the work that you do?
Well, first of all, saludos a todos y saludos a todas who are online, and thank you for having me. And Anna, it's so great to see you, even though it's digital. We go way back, and it's always great to chat with you. And Andres and Catalina, love being in a panel with you. And Amanda, looking forward to meet you soon. So a couple of things that really grabbed me in this question that I think are important to connect. The first one is, Andres was mentioning, I believe, the idea of sports being a great equalizer, and ultimately for minorities, it's a way to accelerate upward mobility. In any one of the big sports in the US, you see how minorities are overrepresented at the player level, and that connects to then a lot of things that have a ripple effect, fandom, and hopefully get into representation in the enterprises that support it. Second thing is how sports really at an individual level and a community level are really rich spaces to connect with your heritage, particularly in a country when we're all figuring out our own take on biculturalism. But also, particularly team sports and particularly for Hispanics, a fantastic place to elevate the importance of Hispanic values. They're very easy to connect Hispanic values with, examples that you can find in team sports, and then that in turn allows you to then educate others in your circle of influence, be it corporation or public sector or whatnot. So for me, that is really where it all starts, and why it's so important to look at it strategically and ask ourselves a question of how can we drive more impact, giving all of these great foundation elements that it has.
So Hero, I'm going to stay with you for a minute because it's very salient to me, top of mind. The amazing equalizing force that Procter was during the World Cup on a gender perspective, as well as during the Olympics, and what filter and angle you put into bringing the world together, bringing moms together, bring the athlete and the families together. If you could speak a little bit on the brand power that comes from that purpose, and then we'll go around to talk to everybody else about that connectivity of the heart and the purpose and the mission that the consumer brings forward and the brands bring forward.
I'm definitely going to need help from the panel. That's a big question, Hannah. So let's start, I think, with a couple of things that are really foundational here for Procter & Gamble. We believe in equality and inclusion on everything we do, and we have the fortune to have a big platform that allows us to create alliances to drive impact and progress. And you see that at the global stage, you see it at the national stage, and sports has been a great avenue to help us do that because it has the potential to create really broad reach. It's able to get into audiences, and what our brands really speak is reach sufficiency. We need to find the individuals who would find our message important. And that is a combination of product superiority and the benefits that we provide, but it's also increasingly connecting a winning aspiration around a civic duty, around citizenship. And the world of sports is creating an environment to do that very, very organically, where force for good and growth come together. And that's, you see it how the journey started with the Olympics globally, the multiple Olympics that we've sponsored, where the Thank You Mom, and how we started to elevate the role of women in the lives of athletes, gender equality that we've taken into other sport fields. We've made big inroads in the NFL, and we really looked at our partnership with the MLS, the Mexico national team, and so the World of Soccer, as a place to double down on this strategy, given the major diversity that the soccer really brings into the US. And we think that is a beacon for progress and for things that should be aspirational for other areas of not only the US, but other countries. So we're really excited about what is being built in the sport to our female athletes or male athletes leading to the World Cup. I think that's going to be a time and a place where we're going to highlight the massive diversity that the World of Soccer football is bringing to the US. And our hope is that it's not just represented through the players, but across all of the estimates of the soccer ecosystem.
And if I can jump on the back of Pedro's comments, one of the things that I was going to mention is that there's not only the fans requiring of sports organizations or sports clubs and leagues more, but also consumers of products are also asking more of each of the brands. One of the things that we talk a lot about at New York City Football Club is that our mission is actually not just to win championships on the pitch. It's great and is what drives everything, is the product that we put on the pitch. But our mission is actually a higher level, is to empower better lives through soccer. I lead the partnerships team at the club, and some of the comments that Hedo was making about leading with purpose is very genuine. And it's great when we're able to find brands as an organization, as a soccer club, that we can partner together on initiatives like we are today, these discussions like we are with Capitanes del Futuro, and a few other initiatives that we've been privileged enough to work with Geronimo and Procter & Gamble on, and each of their brands, taking their unique lens to it to ultimately use our platform in the sport to enrich the lives and make an impact.
I love that. I know that from the trust barometer, from Edelman's perspective, we know that 60% of Latinos, 6 out of 10, expect brands to have an impact and to live to their values and to their belief system. Amanda, I'm particularly taken with the Por la Cultura content that has been in the market for the last 2 years. Can you talk to us a little bit about that Latino fan that you're trying to capture, and what's that roadmap and what insights come from that?
Absolutely. So our Por la Cultura campaign was a complete relaunch of a new effort last season that we've really expanded and doubled or really quadrupled down on this year. And the message and main goal behind it is to celebrate Latino culture all year round, and to move from the Heritage Month celebration, which is obviously really important and impactful, and as you said, on a time when all eyes are on us, but we wanted to take that moment and use it as a springboard to talk about La Cultura all year round. And so it's a way to, and a place to celebrate the impact of the Latino culture and people on football, and vice versa, and to really celebrate the diversity and the complexity of Latinos in the NFL and across the country. It's something that was a campaign that was created by internal strategists who are Latino, through creative designers who are Latino, working with third-party producers and agencies, and a poet and music artists and NFL players, all who are Latino and from different walks of life. So the coolest thing about it for me, and when I started at the NFL in 2009, the first thing I worked on was our Hispanic heritage, football Americano program in 2009, and to see the transformation over the years and the authentic commitment all year round, and that integration across everything that the NFL does. This is one campaign that really celebrates and dedicates efforts to Latinos, but the coolest part is that it has a trickle-down effect and is something that you see incorporated into everything that we do, from our social media to our brand work, our communication strategies, our content, our broadcasts that we put on television. Por la Cultura is one specific dedicated effort to celebrate that, but it really signifies that commitment that the NFL has to be Por la Cultura all year round.
Which is music to my ears. And I think everyone in this call has done that one way or another. And let me tell you how we have arrived, because that was our end state, maybe, our point of arrival as we looked at it maybe 10 years ago. And the fact that we're here now, that we can say that all with confidence, it's amazing. I want to move a little bit, still in sports. Catalina, you're going to be on deck now as a player, as well as someone who is doing talent acquisition, diversity and inclusion initiatives. I was battling with, do I wear my Roberto Clemente shirt or do I wear my Hispanic Star shirt? Sí, por supuesto. So I needed to do that, but can you talk to us a little bit about the efforts that you're championing for D&I, and what successes you see within this community?
Yeah,
as it pertains to sports specifically, because again, the filter we're looking at all of this is through sports.
Yeah, especially it's a great question. And from a talent acquisition perspective, it's like, historically baseball, and even right now, we have 27% of our players are Latino born. And, so we have an amazing culture about the Hispanic and the Latin community. And we try to make sure that that comes from the players, fits in through our talent, and make sure that our talent here at MLB are proudly Latinos and Latinas and embrace that and able to be authentic and be themselves. So or from an ERG perspective, we work with our group Somos ERG, which we had an amazing event yesterday here at Office of the Commissioner with Nike. Claudia was the MC. So we also had NFL and Latinx in sports, but talk a lot about like the importance of the Hispanic community, and then how from a league perspective and then from teams we're talking to that community. But more from the talent acquisition, all the different programs we do with HR to go to different communities and a lot of different diverse recruiting conventions where we're actually talking to these young professionals and colleges. We have programs where we talk to different colleges and we talk to these underrepresented communities about there's opportunity at MLB and different careers. We have from a tech and engineer perspective, so many like sports and analytics, data positions, marketing, HR, but making sure that we're talking in an authentic and organic way to this, young talent and letting them understand that there's an opportunity in sports, but, in MLB specifically when we go to these events. But I think the most important thing about that, and it's something that like our team has been working very closely with HR, is not a one-off event, right? It's like how we doing that follow-up with those candidates and how we organically and authentically impacting that specific community. So yeah, like one thing is getting the talent to come and work here, but another thing is like how we talking to the Latin community in those different regions. And our baseball and softball development group does a fantastic job on putting like a lot of playable events, giving back to a community, making sure that we're like engaging with, underrepresented communities with our clubs, but then also through our MLB brand. But that's a huge part. I feel like to be able to obtain talent that are diverse, they have to see also that we're making an impact in a community within their community. So it's different parts and different functions and different departments working together, but it makes the job very meaningful at the end of the day.
And that representation is so critically important. And again, I just want to take a minute to say thank you to everyone that's here. One, because you're represented, but importantly, the speakers that we have, you all have tremendous sweat equity in your ERGs or your BRGs. You're all invested. You're all developing content, either from a talent acquisition perspective, from a creative and brand perspective and initiative. So thank you, gracias. Because again, that's where we all feel we belong and we have a strong seat at the table. Interested to hear, Jero, I see you leaning in. Andres, I see you leaning in.
So yeah, there's I think two really important points that are a direct follow-up from what Catalina was mentioning, that for me are helping us expand the view of representation, which is a very difficult challenge. Structurally, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a bit. The cards that Hispanic youth have to land a job in corporate America are not the best ones. So there's a couple of things in the short term that can happen. The first thing that can happen is, in order to be able to solve the gaps in delivering your message to underserved audiences, so it's a reach problem, the brands are looking for platforms that can help them get to the underserved. And immediately, when you ask yourself that question, you realize that specific sports in the US do a fantastic job reaching underserved communities, be it the African ancestry community, be it the Hispanic community. And as you look at that opportunity and go after it, you realize that the best way to deliver content that is relevant, that resonates in market activations outside of media, more on the marketing side, that really grab the fans' attention, you need to have strategists, operators, all end-to-end, where the Hispanic or the AA insight comes through, which immediately puts the pressure on representation of our vendors. And vendors diversity is a place that I believe is going to be the low-hanging fruit, where we can have the biggest impact in the shortest possible time through all of the infrastructure that is supporting reaching the fan and resonating with the fan. And that's what I would say we need to put our focus in the short term, and making sure that these minority owned and operated institutions that operate locally can expand and scale. And then the second area is more the structural piece around education, which is a really tough one, to get people up in middle and upper management that really influence and shape the strategies. You really need to tackle education. And the great insight that we all are learning is that, wow, the kids who are really engaged with sports, that are strong fans, that stay in sports longer, they actually complete high school. And if we can tap into that and take it one step further and use that engagement with the sports to open their eyes to their superpowers, how their unique, call it, values from their culture can be applied to be successful in different careers connected to what they like. Facilitate the access to college, facilitate the access to interviews, hands-on experience. Then you can start really seeing a path forward. Now, to activate that path forward, it requires a massive alliance. Educational sector, Hispanic serving institutions, connection to high schools, local organizations, private, public sector. So at this point, it's more about starting the ripple effect, but really realizing that this is not just about celebrating culture. We have to take one step further and figure out how, as we nail the culture challenge and get people to be engaged, how do we connect, stay engaged in sports, practice in sports, to education, like Catalina was mentioning, and then really tackle the recruiting opportunities that we all struggle with because our traditional schools just do not have enough Hispanics. So it's a big of a long-winded answer, but I just think the question is such a good one that we really need to bring these two pieces to the forefront.
Andres, I know you were leaning in. Before we do that, I want to put I like to bring facts to the table, right? So it's not just a big platitude. I was reading and preparing for this panel that by the age of 14, girls drop out of sports at 2 times the rate that boys do. So not only do we need to do the acquisition of making sure that if you're staying in sports, and sports is a lever to go to education, there's also a different piece into that from a gender perspective, we need to retain that gender parity as it goes upstream. So Andres, I'm gonna hand over to you.
Yeah, one of the things that I was gonna, and it leans a little bit into the fact that you just laid out for us, is at New York City Football Club, we're blessed to be in one of the most diverse cities in the world, and the grassroots element of being out into the communities. Our offices are in Midtown Manhattan, right? We cannot make an impact just sitting there in a high-rise building. We need to be out in the community and creating and empowering young leaders and the next generation to be active and in their communities across the 5 boroughs of New York is something that we put a lot of effort towards. Both men and women, young men and young women being part of this. One of the initiatives that I was going to mention, I think it was Catalina who mentioned just the corporate side of what makes a club tick and all the different types of roles that are available at a league and at a club level. But also on the point of coaching, sometimes we need to try to remove barriers through training. We just last year launched a new initiative that is aimed at trying to get greater diversity into coaching. And we found that one of the biggest barriers were paying for the licenses that come with being a licensed coach. So if you're from an underserved background, underserved community, not only do you need to access the networks, but then made a significant investment in maintaining these licenses, which sometimes can be a barrier. So kind of 2 points, like grassroots and making sure that we empower the next generation of young leaders. And that sometimes there are barriers that we as brands and clubs and other entities can bring and try to remove.
If you don't
I love
mind,
that.
I could,
Amanda, go in. I see you. This is the best part of this universe, is that we all know each other's cues and we don't even really know each other that well. But culturally, we're like, I see you looking, and I'm like, okay, she wants to weigh in.
well, it's just such an amazing topic. So again, really appreciate the opportunity to share any thoughts on it. But as you said, the intersectionality of, it's not just about race and ethnicity in this conversation. It's also about gender identity